What is the first thing you look at when you arrive at a college or a high school? Most people look at the landscape, the architecture, or the people. I look at the track surface. I look at the design, the material, and the placement of it. It is important to know the material of a track because then it helps you decide whether it is a good place to train on or not. My father has owned his own track company since before I was born. I've grown up on job sites, working when I can, and learning how to assemble tracks. It is important for me to know the history of track surfaces because someday I might own his business. Today I will teach you about 3 eras of track surfaces: the pre-artificial era, the semi-artificial era, and the artificial era. Let's start out with talking about the pre-artificial era. Runners have been performing since the beginning of time, since the beginning of artificial materials. The first track and field games were held at the ancient Olympics. Only men competed. They wore no clothes and had no shoes to run in. At this time, track surfaces were made out of 2 things: dirt and sand. Dirt was a great surface to run on at this time. It was firm enough to build different muscles in the runner's legs, but the difference in elevation caused stress on the feet and the ankles. Second is sand. Sand is also a great surface for this time, but it is not ideal. It cushions the blows that running would cause. It also prevents shin splints. But according to Bob Glover, the footing is uncertain. Your heel will sink into the sand, causing strain on the Achilles tendon. Now that I've talked to you a little bit about the pre-artificial era, let's talk about the semi-artificial era. Cinders, asphalt, and latex were used next. Cinders and asphalt were used before latex was invented in the 1950s. Cinders are like sand, small rocks but less fine. This makes it better to run on. But it is dangerous because if a runner falls, cinders can get inside the cut and stay in the runner's skin for the rest of their life. Second is asphalt. Asphalt, we can kind of compare that to concrete. It is made with rocks and emulsions. It is a very hard surface. This is dangerous because it can cause shin splints or muscle sprains. Kathy Fiesler says, "This is a term to describe pain along the inner tibia. This is not good. We do not want our runners having shin splints or muscle sprains. This would make them cause to stop doing running in performances." Later, tracks were made out of latex. This is the second most popular track surface today. Joe Murrow, office manager of Tracker Innovations Incorporated, explains, "Latex tracks, or all-weather tracks, are made of recycled car tires that can be either granulated or strangulated, normally ranging from 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Granulated is granules of rubber, while strangulated means little strands. These tracks are glued down with latex, which is a water-based product. Granulated are little rubber circles, and strangulated are like spaghetti, but cut up. Latex is not a hazardous material. This means that it is cheaper and easier for a school to attain. But even though it's cheaper, it is becoming a thing of the past. Now that I've taught you a little bit more about the semi-artificial era, let's talk about the artificial era, or tracks now. Polyurethane is the most wanted, most sought after track surface today. There are 2 types of polyurethane tracks. The first is a 1 component. The 1 component is ready right out of the container. It is sort of like Gorilla Glue in that it sets up with temperature or moisture in the air. What you do is you add rubber granules to it and lay it along the surface of the track. You don't want it too hard because that would hurt the runner, but you also don't want it too soft because that would cause ankles to roll and things like that. Second is the 2 component. The 2 component mixture has a part A and a part B. When you mix these together, it creates a chemical reaction, causing it to set up. Then you mix the rubber granules into it to a certain ratio. And based on the depth that the school wants, that's what the machine goes over it with. There are 3 types of 2-component tracks. The black pave mat, and I have an example here. This is the most popular of the 3. The next is a black paved mat with a structural spray. This is the black paved mat, and this is the structural spray to help cover over the top. And the third is the most expensive. It is the full pour system, and it looks like this. Olympic tracks use this system today. Mondo is the company that installs Olympic tracks today. A Mondo representative, Alejandra Martin, explains, unlike other track designs that combine traction and shock absorption in an upper layer of granules, the Mondo's track separates these functions with a cushion backing for shock absorption and a solid upper layer that optimizes slip resistance and durability. Now that I've taught you a little bit more about the artificial era, let's talk about a summary of all. Today I've taught you about all 3 of the eras. Let's go over them again. The first is the pre-artificial, which is sand and dirt. Next is the semi, cinders, asphalt, and latex. The last thing we talked about is the polyurethane tracks, and there are 2 types, the 1-component and the 2-component. Now knowing a little bit more about this information, I hope you go out and you look at schools and see what types of tracks they have. Mike Dixon, owner of Track Renovations Incorporated, says, I have started building tracks since 1989. When I started, there were many experimental products used for running tracks. Many products were used for other industries. As far as surfaces, the products have continually improved. And they will keep improving. There will always be someone out there wanting to make this industry better. Thank you.